equals
no
here.
one's,
I get
on
what
top
you
of
mean
it.
with that. Okay.
Maybe if it was somebody, and maybe if it was somebody I didn't know, maybe I would have more respect for them, and I would, not that I don't have respect for my peers.
Yeah, you're coming off like a real...
You're coming off awful.
Wow.
You're
That's
so
not what I
jealous and
meant.
disrespectful
No,
of your
that's not what I
peers.
meant to- oh,
These
no.
words we put in your mouth make you look really bad, Lisa.
I think, Lisa, when you listen
You know
to
what?
it,
I'm not
carefully
sure that I
edit tape.
even like you.
With God as my witness.
Teachers are bad students.
We
know this.
I'm not focused. I'm used to being the center of attention,
Yep.
or trying to be the center of attention, and it's hard for me to sort of settle.
Yeah.
And also, most of the things where I am a student now, I'm not particularly interested in what I'm being taught.
Yeah, had you signed up for it?
Yeah, it would
you
be different.
would've-
Yeah. But it's always stuff that's mandatory that I don't really care about, which is maybe why all of my drama students always ignore me all the time, because
it's mandatory for them?
well, they have to have an arts credit, right?
Yeah.
So
The grade 9s.
yeah. Who are the ones who ignore me the most?
Yeah.
Oh,
But maybe that's why a lot
10s
of...
too, but a lot of 10s are getting their credit too.
All right, so let me
They
throw
won't
it.
be able to see this in the podcast, but you have an eyelash on your face, right side.
Right side.
Yeah, that's
You've
right.
done a great
You got
job of
it.
describing it. I'm sure that the listening audience
Did I
feels
get
like they're
it?
here with
You got
us.
it.
Okay.
It was an eyelash.
Should we then? Can I pose a
Yeah.
teaching question?
Yeah.
In this portion
No,
of the
you
podcast?
can't. You're not allowed to ask any questions
I'll
about
get back
teaching.
to what I wish I
We
was
made it
good
very
at
clear
after.
that we do not sit around and talk about teaching ever. We just lie about that at the beginning.
What's your
What's your question?
Should we be having more streaming? Should we be having streamed schools? Where in grade 7 or grade 8, you have done a lot of things. You've tried a lot of different classes. Your behavior, it's not locked by any stretch, but you have a fairly good idea of what you are like. And we do change, I know this, and what you're interested in. Maybe you go to grade 9. But then after a certain point, you do aptitude tests, you do interest surveys, you do all sorts of things that we do in guidance, that we do in careers, that we're starting to do with all students everywhere in Ontario now. But then after that, you go to a separate building. You don't have classes that are offered, here and there. You're really good at doing sports. You're thinking about becoming a phys ed teacher. You do sports in phys ed at a sports phys ed school. You're really good at languages. You're thinking about becoming an interpreter. You do languages at a language school. They do this in a lot of European countries, where you go to the school for science, you go to the school for humanities, and it streams you in a way that it gives you greater opportunity to do the classes that you'd be interested in doing in an environment that would lend itself to your style of learning. Is that a better alternative to, we all go to school, we all have to learn a little bit of everything, and then in grade 11 you can kind of tweak it, and in grade 12 you really can construct your own pathway?
I'm a little torn about that, because I think that that would work really well for a lot of kids. I, all through high school, from my own standpoint, because I am clearly a humanities, English, drama kind of kid, or I was, but I also loved science, and I think that I would be missing out if I'd gone to like languages, humanities sort of school, and I didn't have the opportunity to take the science, because I did really, really enjoy science,
right.
And I did well at it. It was something that I found interesting. And
Up until what grade
at.
did you take it?
I took it right up to OAC.
Okay.
I took biology and chemistry right up to OAC.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I was always a big lover of science. My take on it is this. It's a bad idea.
Okay.
No.
Well,
my take on it is actually the opposite. Actually, it's an excellent idea, but my take on it is I would actually want to kick it up further, and I would go, and we've discussed this before in the podcast. I would kick it up a notch and say, let's not specialize schools, let's specialize curriculum.
Okay.
And and what we need to do is reevaluate how we organize the structure of a school day in such a way that we provide every student an opportunity to pursue their interests in a more self-directed model. We were talking about careers, for example, and my blueprint. And my blueprint is awesome in sort of guiding a kid towards a career, but I think the question we should be asking a kid in grade 7 or 6 or 5 or 4 or 3 or 2, especially boys, what meaningful learning activity can we engage you in that's going to trigger your passion and interest so that you will do this activity without our guidance?
Right.
And then from that activity, you will therefore learn how to do things, because almost anything that we need to know on a basic level, almost any skill, whether it's a math skill, a literacy skill, it's borne out in almost every career. You know, so this idea that you need math for life, you do. But how much math you need, it depends on what you choose to do. But what we can do is we can use that, so we could find the thing that they love, and then our job is to tease out the curriculum from that. Our job is to find out what are the applications. Because really, what do we want someone to do? We want a student to be, I mean, frankly, the way I've approached learning about podcasting. You know,
it's a self-study, the self-mastery,
it's a self-study, and it's a
internal locus of effect.
And there's no real motivation or reward for kids to go out and explore and discover stuff on their own.
No.
And fail, and, you know, that sort of more touchy-feely approach, you know, that sort of feeling your way through things, I should say. It's not so much touchy-feely, but that sort of exploratory approach.
Certainly not at secondary level, right?
Exactly.
You hear about some elementary programs that have this inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, game theory, whatever they're incorporating. They can do it on a smaller scale in a more contained environment and a more flexible timetable.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing, right? I was talking to a great teacher, great technology. She uses technology in class. And we'll put her, I'll get permission to see if we can talk about her, and I'll put her Twitter in the show notes if I get permission. Okay. I don't want to say anything without talking about her.
Okay.
I was talking to her first. She's doing amazing things using technology in her class, but one of the things that she did was, you know what, one day, we need to build a green screen. So they just adjusted the day. And we're going to spend a little bit longer building this green screen. We'll film. They have this unbelievable CGI history project that they did, but they spent the morning building a green screen and figuring that out because they could.
Yeah.
We can't do that. We've got an hour and 15 minutes at our school, bell rings, and that's it. And the learning that stretches from one period to another, it's lossy. You can't continue the momentum.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's a little bit harder for us to be flexible with our time because we're so bound to that bell.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to cut off the good at stuff because I think that's a great way to segue into what we're talking about today. And because what we're talking about today is kinesthetic learners. I've been thinking about this, and I believe that the problem with the educational system today is that we have a significant number of kinesthetic learners. It's not their fault, but we have a significant number of kinesthetic learners, and those kinesthetic learners' needs are not met within a traditional school system. You actually made a really good point. 50 years ago, they didn't go to school.
Absolutely.
50 years ago, they dropped out in grade 9 and got a job as an apprentice. They
Doing
got a job,
things.
Yeah, doing things.
Doing
things
things.
with their hands, you know, and being physically active.
And by kinesthetic, you're talking about a kinesthetic learning style.
Yeah.
You're talking about bodily kinesthetic, multiple intelligence theory. You're talking about doer, Holland hexagon personality type, and you're talking about an authentic orange kind of temperament theory. So these active, up and doing kind of kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kinesthetic learners usually, and I'm referring to an article I got off of education.com. And frankly, a website called education.com, that has to be the definitive authority.
Yes.
So
I trust it.
I had a few different people that I could have got stuff from, and I thought, you know what, I didn't print it off because that would be illegal. I just am reading this off of a screen.
Is it illegal to print off a screen? You can print off a screen.
I don't know. I think I've broken the law by printing. No, I would have broken the law had I printed this off.
Get the matches.
Kinesthetic learners usually, and let's just think about all of these points and think about a traditional school.
Right.
Move around a lot. How's that going to work in most classrooms?
That's great. They sit in rows.
Yeah. Like to touch people they're talking to.
Don't touch me.
Yeah. Tap their pencil or foot while doing schoolwork.
Stop it. That's disruptive.
Yeah. Enjoy physical activities.
Stop roughhousing.
Yeah.
Save it for phys ed.
Take frequent breaks when studying.
Sit down.
Sit down, be quiet,
Yeah.
don't go to the bathroom, don't, you've asked to go to the bathroom 3 times this period.
Yeah.
Don't spend a lot of time reading.
Reading sucks.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're
You're
the worst teacher ever.
Sorry. I would teach
Yeah,
my
How about
teacher
silent
was
reading time?
silent
Silent
reading time.
reading time.
Every class will begin
with unsupervised,
absolutely.
supervised silent
And you know what happens when you try and do that to a college level kid in grade 12 English? The first 15 minutes are silent reading time, class starts for them 15 minutes later because that's when they come in. They come in at that point.
Or you get what I got a lot of, which was silent staring. Where they would just pick an object and stare at it silently for 15 minutes, if I was lucky. They have difficulty spelling correctly. Learn this. You should spell.
Well, really,
It's there. It's very straightforward.
When we're marking spelling, punctuation, and grammar first. Spag. Right? It's spag.
Love to solve problems by physically working through them.
Sit down.
Like to try new things.
Sit down.
Are coordinated and agile.
Sit down.
Are considered hyperactive.
Sit down.
Express their feelings physically, such as hitting and hugging.
Stop punching him.
And sit down. Move with the hands when they talk. What's the matter, you?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. My hands go all over the place. She says with her hands flapping around.
Dress for comfort instead of style.
Sit down.
Lie on the floor or bed when studying. Sit down. Sit up. Sit up straight.
Sit up.
Don't slouch. Don't,
Sit up.
Enjoy touching things.
Stop touching
that. Have difficulty sitting still for extended periods of time.
Sit down!
Excel in athletics and the performing arts.
Sit down!
Down, kid. So I would argue that most traditional classrooms are not successful for kinesthetic learners or are systems that are set up for kids to fail. One simple modification that I think we should have right from the start: stand-up desks.
Amen.
Stand-up desks are an option in every classroom. Either you have adjustable desks, that product you talked about, which doesn't sound very expensive, that you could put on top of a desk. I don't know if you remember the name of it.
No, but it rather resembles a TV tray, like a dinner tray. Is it called a TV tray?
Yeah.
And so it folds out, and something that you would have sitting in breakfast in bed. It would just it's that height, so it doesn't go to the ground. It would just fit around your lap, and you put it on top of a desk, and it lifts it up a good foot and a half.
It's a stand-up desk,
and it becomes a makeshift stand-up desk.
Yeah. And I mean something like that.
And they're not expensive. I got one for $12, I think.
Yeah. The store being
this was at Jysk.
Jysk. How do you spell it?
It's like I think it's
JSK.
JSK?
JYSK?
Because it's from a country that is so poor they can't afford vowels?
Bird!
Take that, a lot of the world.
Take that. Not Canada.
It's sort of an IKEA.
It is. It's IKEA Light.
Yeah.
It's IKEA Light.
Yes.
It's IKEA. Were there any monkeys there when you saw it?
No, there weren't. There were not. Call back.
Call back to the monkey.
Or make everyone use a standing desk. Or I don't know. It was very frustrating.
We're big stand-up desk people. I feel like that option in a class. Imagine if you could say to the boys, boys, do you want to go to the back of the class and be at the stand-up desk?
Yeah.
Now we ask you to stay in your work area, but you can be standing, you can be fidgeting, you can be shaking it out and getting rid of that energy and stuff like that.
Bring in some Swiss balls. Sit on a yoga ball. Right? That kind of
that keeps
balance.
you moving.
It keeps you moving around. Yeah.
But here's the thing. I'm going to say this. You're a teacher. How do you feel looking out at all of your kids bouncing because you know how hard you're trying to keep control? And this is a huge issue, is that my problem with the kinesthetic learning style, and my thing as to why I believe we should not even try to educate these children.
Put them in a field somewhere. Let them fend for themselves.
Have them or just maybe we can just have something where we just have them in the morning they build the widgets, in the afternoon they melt them down.
It's the busy works.
Yeah, it is the busy works. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, because as a teacher, on the other side of it is that you're trying to deliver information universally because that's the only way that you can, right? You're trying to deliver it to a large group, and 50 kids or 15 kids bouncing up and down it stresses you out.
It stresses you out, and it distracts other people.
And that's I think the biggest strike against kinesthetic learners is that where they traditional non-kinesthetic learning is not engaging them, their style of learning, unless it's carefully managed, would be distracting to other learners. Right? To the rest of the population, they would not be able to function in that environment.
Yeah. And let's look at some hands-on learning tools which will help a kinesthetic learner and think about them in a classroom situation. An abacus, an excellent thing.
Click.
And that's, again, this is a real, and maybe this does come, maybe we don't stream kids according to interest, maybe we stream them according to learning style. You know what I mean? Like instead of saying we're going to, this is the place for people who are going to be successful people. This is the school for people who are going to be sucked. That's how you
Busy
meant
Works.
That's what you were like. Busy Works.
Specifically
You wanted
my
to have
idea,
that was your idea, right? To have them build widgets in the morning and then melt them down in the afternoon.